Okay, aloha everyone. Aloha Mike Tafiko. Good morning. It is now 10 a.m. and I'm calling to order the Wednesday, March 11th, 2026 Land Use Commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting being held in person at the Leopapa a Kamehameha State Office Tower, 235 South Beretania Street, room 405, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96813, and with virtual participation via Zoom. This meeting is open to the public. And please be advised that this meeting is being recorded via Zoom. The recording will be posted on YouTube and used for court reporting purposes. Your continued participation is your implied consent to be part of the public record of this event. Now, if you do not wish to be part of the public record, you should exit this meeting now. For those attending via Zoom, please note that the question and answer feature will only be used for signing up for public testimony. All other communications will not be monitored or made part of the meeting record. Written communications can be emailed to the Land Use Commission office at dbedt.luc.web@hawaii.gov. For all meeting participants, please speak slowly, clearly, and directly into your microphone. Before speaking, please state your name to identify yourself for the record. We'll also share with all participants that we will take breaks from time to time, about every 60 minutes or so. For commissioners participating remotely, please state your location and whether anyone over the age of 18 is present with you. All right, so my name is Brian Lee, and I will be serving as LUC chair today. There are 8 seated commissioners currently, and joining me today are Mel Kahele on Zoom. Commissioner Kahele, are you by yourself?
Yes, I am, Brian.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kuiki Okalani Kamakea Ohelo via Zoom. Commissioner, are you by yourself? Your audio didn't quite come over. Could you please reconfirm? Just give us a thumbs up. You might be having some audio. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Bruce Uu from Maui is here. Commissioner Miles Miyasato from the Big Island, and Commissioner and Vice Chair Nancy Carr-Smith is from Hawaii Island and also on Zoom. Commissioner Carr-Smith, are you by yourself?
Yes, I am. I'm joining from my home. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Absent today are Commissioners Ken Hayashida from Oahu and Commissioner Michael Yamane from Kauai. In attendance with us is the Land Use Commission Executive Officer, Mr. Daniel Orodenker, LUC Chief Planner Scott Derrickson, LUC Staff Planner Martina Segura, and LUC Chief Clerk Ariana Kwan. And also with us is our LUC Deputy Attorney General, Mr. John Nugio. Again, court reporting transcriptions are being done of this Zoom recording. Agenda item number 2 is the informational briefing of the state climate and sustainability mandates. So this next order of business is an informational briefing presentation by Ms. Danielle Bass, our award-winning state sustainability coordinator, for an overview of Hawaii's state climate and sustainability mandates and a brief overview of the integrated land use study authorized by Act 187, State Laws of Hawaii 2025, which directs the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, referred to as OPSD, to conduct a statewide integrated land use study to analyze land capacity to meet the state's climate, sustainability, agriculture, energy, and housing goals, and related reporting requirements. Ms. Bass may also be better known as the chair of the Mililani, Waikaku, and Belemanu Neighborhood Board. So with that, I ask Ms. Kwan if any written public testimony submitted on this matter.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Kwan. Are there any members of the public that wish to provide oral testimony on this matter?
Being none using the Q&A feature, Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Bass, floor is yours.
Aloha, Chair. Aloha, members of the Land Use Commission. Aloha, staff. Thank you for this opportunity to provide this presentation. Our director at OPSD, the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, Mary Alice Evans, did request this presentation back in December. So we're very thankful for you sharing this time We do want to briefly go over just the state, as Chair mentioned, the state sustainability and climate mandates. And when are those mandates expected to be achieved? What years? As well as how does this feed into land use? There's an exciting study which the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development will be conducting that we'll mention at the end of this presentation, called the Integrated Land Use Study. And this can help in informing these competing uses of land. So we hope that this is informative to you all in your future decision making. I am also joined by our Land Use Division Administrator, Leo Asuncion.
Morning, Chair, members.
So without further ado, just thank you again for this opportunity. So we're going to go right into it. There are 24 laws, which are state climate and sustainability mandates within the state of Hawaii. I'm going to start with 2020 because we want to know where we're coming from and where we're headed to. So there are laws that the state legislature and the governors have enacted into law where there's a greenhouse gas emission level to be achieved by the year 2020, where we need to meet at or below the 1990 emissions level. Happy to report that the Department of Health does monitor that, and we did achieve that emissions mandate. Also in the year 2020, a law that is very familiar, I hope, to you all, as well as it's marketed widely, is the state's renewable portfolio standard, the 100% by 2045. By the year 2020, the state, the utilities were mandated by the state to achieve 30% by the year 2020 of renewable energy generated. We did achieve that goal. In 2022, the legislature also passed, governor enacted a complete prohibition statewide to the burning of coal within the state of Hawaii. We did accomplish that. And in the year 2025, which was just last year, the state legislature and the governor enacted a farm to state local purchasing requirement. This law is very interesting, and I will be talking about this law for going on into this presentation because it's staggered. This mandates the Department of Education, the Department of Health, the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, the Department of Defense, and the University of Hawaii, pretty much all of the major procurement entities for food to purchase at least 10% of food from local sources within the state of Hawaii. We have not met that goal, but we are continuing to meet that. Moving on. 4 years from now, in the year 2030, the state of Hawaii has been mandated a continuous greenhouse gas emissions reduction limit, which reduces greenhouse gases emissions to 50% below 2005 levels. That mandate is on our Department of Health Clean Air branch, and they are working across all state agencies to fulfill this mandate. Continuing on with the renewable portfolio standard by the year 2030, again, just 4 years away, all the utilities of the state of Hawaii are mandated by the state to achieve 40% renewable energy generated across the state within the next 4 years. Currently, I'm happy to report, of course, KIUC has been leading that effort. And the Hawaiian Electrical Company, HECO, just made a report yesterday, I believe, or within this week, that they hit 37% just last year. So it's exciting. We're on our way. Also, there's a statewide energy efficiency portfolio in which the Public Utilities Commission is required to enforce the reduction of 4,300 gigawatt hours of electrical use. They partner with state partners like the Hawaii Energy Group, and they are contracted by the Public Utilities Commission to help execute this law. The state fleet is also required to have a zero emission vehicle transition by the year 2030, which requires all light duty passenger vehicles within the state to be zero emission. I want to make clear that it's zero emission and not electric, because it has come up through legislative conversations as well as many sustainability conversations that It is the county of Hawaii that has some concerns about electric vehicle mandates, given the fact that this is a large island and hydrogen vehicles are preferred. So the county of Hawaii has actually invested quite a bit in hydrogen buses and whatnot. And so that is why this law is written widely for zero emission vehicle to cover both electric vehicle and hydrogen vehicles. Also, within the next 4 years, the state is mandated by the legislature and enacted by the governor that we must double local food production and increase local food exports by the year 2030. And the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity is mandated to measure that. The Department of Education is also mandated by the Farm to School law that they must purchase 30% of their food from local sources by the year 2030. And going back to that farm to state law, the Department of Health, the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, the Department of Defense and UH must purchase 18%. So that is where you just see a little bit of a division there with the farm to state law. They're working on 18% for 2030. Meanwhile, the Department of Education had to jump from 10% to 30% within those 5 years. By the year 2035, just 9 years away, the Department of Education is required net zero energy, in which all public schools must generate as much renewable energy as they consume. So that is essentially what a net zero energy goal is. The University of Hawaii is also mandated to achieve that net zero energy requirement by a separate law by the year 2035. The state fleet zero emission vehicle transition is extended also into 2035 for all light duty motor vehicles. That's separated from passenger vehicles in 2030. So this is how all other vehicles for motor vehicles are represented there in 2035. And going back to farm to state, the Department of Health, Corrections and Rehabilitation's Defense and UH must now purchase 26% of their food from local sources, just 9 years away in 2035. Moving on, by the year 2040, which is about 14 years away, the state of Hawaii, our utilities are now required to achieve 70% of renewable energy. The PUC is mandated to oversee those utility reports, as well as that farm to state goal progresses to again incorporate the Department of Education, Health, Corrections, Rehabilitation, Defense, and the University of Hawaii must purchase 34% of local food from local sources for the foods that they share with their consumers by the year 2040. Now, there's been a lot of interest in the year 2045. Again, that's mainly because the marketing and information outreach related to the RPS law. So by the year 2045, the utilities, the electrical utilities in the state of Hawaii are required to hit 100% renewable energy generation. And the PUC, again, enforces that. The economy, our entire state economy is mandated zero emissions, clean economy, in where the state must sequester more carbon than it emits. And that is to be achieved by December 31st, 2045. We talked about the energy efficiency portfolio earlier, where the PUC was required to reduce reduce the energy production to 4,300 gigawatts of electricity use. A recent law was passed by the year 2045 that 6,000 gigawatt hours of electricity use is required to be reduced and enforced by the PUC by the year 2045. Interestingly enough, by the year 2045, all state, county, and county facilities must recycle water. So 100% of reclaimed water is mandated except for the potable and drinkable uses on those facilities by the year 2045, and that is codified within the state's water plan executed by CWER. And the farm to states goal now progresses where the Department of Education, Health, Corrections and Rehabilitation, Defense, and University of Hawaii must purchase 42% of their food from local sources by the year 2045. Finally, 24 years from now, in the year 2050, that farm to state local food purchasing goal hits 50%. So for those state departments, as well as all cesspools statewide, which are roughly 88,000, and this is executed by the Department of Health, must be upgraded, converted, and connected to sewage systems. So there are, again, I mentioned 24 sustainability and climate law mandates across the state of Hawaii that are mandated and enforced by our state departments. Going into this, the big question is, how are we going to do it, right? And how does this impact our lands? This has been a conversation that's come up many times before the Land Use Commission, many times before many of our land agencies, as well as the state legislature. So last year, the legislature passed a law, which was a DBED, Office of Planning and Sustainable Development Law, Act 187 in 2025, calling for a statewide integrated land use study. Essentially, this is going to be a first of its kind statewide integrated land use study in which we're not looking at district boundary amendments. We're not looking at, DBAs and permits before the Land Use Commission. This is just an exploratory study. And it will be led by our office and supported by the DBED. Specifically, our DBED Deputy Director is already involved. Currently, Hawaii's lands are facing competing demands, as we all know, in agriculture, renewable energy, housing, conservation, and infrastructure. And so this study is mandating OPSD to bring together the data from state agencies, agriculture, housing, energy, and climate programs, and to coordinate to reduce the conflict and limit the ability of limit our ability of state climate, food, and housing targets so that we can identify how much land and where is needed to meet Hawaii's statutory sustainability, agriculture, housing, and clean energy goals. So essentially, this is a data-driven foundation for future planning to help inform decision makers like you, our legislators, and other decision makers across the state to ensure land resources are used wisely and sustainably, to support climate resilient balanced growth, protecting our INA while strengthening Hawaii's economy and communities. With that, that completes my brief presentation, Chair. I'm available for questions.
Well, thank you very much for your comprehensive presentation and especially with the citations, Ms. Bass. Commissioners, are there any questions for Ms. Bass?
Chair, I have a question.
Sure, Commissioner Miyasato.
So I just wanted to, thinking the Bureau had required a report 20 days into the ledge. So was that report given to the ledge?
Unfortunately, no. We experienced some significant delay in the release of the financing for that bill. So we actually only received our financing at the end of last year, so we're unable to fulfill that mandate.
Was that the person hired?
Yes, we have, person wasn't hired yet. We have actually solicited the job description and whatnot. We've held interviews as well, and we're closing in on the hiring process now.
Okay, so yeah, I kind of noticed that you was referencing everything that's going to be starting and complete. So
Yeah, we unfortunately, due to that financial delay, we are a little behind on that. And so we've been very clear with the legislature and the administration as well.
the other thing I would have is I didn't notice any mention on that affordable housing rental in the study, the 22,000 plus.
Yes, that is a mandate within the study.
Okay, so will it be upfront, hopefully? Not in 2050?
So how we're going to explore the study is with all the mandates, including the 22,500 for the affordable housing rental units. Of course, OPSD has previously produced reports on that. So we're our goal is to align all of this information to help inform how we can proceed moving forward.
Shit. I know it's kind of premature, but would you sort of be looking county by county as to the integration of land and uses for housing?
The mandate of the law requires us to look within the agricultural district statewide. So again, acknowledging that we are behind on this, given the delay of the financial release, that is the goal, is to look throughout the agricultural district. Concurrently, the Department of Business and Economic Development is leading in accordance with the Executive Order 2501. They're looking into state-owned lands on how we can find that balance and align energy, agricultural production, as well as housing. So DBED has been taking that lead. I gave that mention to the Deputy Director of DBED, who's been leading that charge with so many of our agencies, HHFDC, ADC, of course, our own employees within the OPSD. The point of this bill is to meet that endeavor and look within the agricultural district and align both of these matters.
Looking at this awfully, just interest, kind of sparked an interest in how some of these topics for emission affects integration in land division in agricultural districts. So the topic of, I guess for me, when I read the bill, that process seemed to have been competing.
Yes.
And so how does the mission compete with the ag land designation?
I believe when it comes to emissions, essentially we want to make sure that the sustainability and climate mandates are working concurrently with our energy, agricultural, and housing goals, right? The point is to try to align them to de-escalate this competition of use.
Maybe wind farms, solar farms and stuff on ag land.
Promote dual uses, agrivoltaics, multiple uses. We only have the 4 million acres of land, so we gotta be mindful of our INA.
Okay. I guess my last thing for now. And it's nothing to do with you folks, it's within this bill. My disappointment is the elephant in the room. That no study is gonna be put forward on environmental management. I mean, we gotta find a place for the waste for the future. I wish that was in the study, none of your doing, but for me, that's the immediate, I would say, need for a $800,000 study. Would be great to have that in there. Just a comment.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Great questions, Commissioner Miyasato. Anybody else with any questions for Ms. Bass? Anybody else?
Would you like me to stop sharing?
Maybe.
Okay.
Right, well, I'm going to ask a couple of questions then. These mandates are very ambitious.
They are.
What kind of carrots or sticks or any logical advancements might there be that will help us get to these goals?
That comes up quite a bit. They are ambitious, absolutely. And I do remind members that, it was through a course of time that the state legislature passed these laws and various governors have signed them into law, right? So it's not one particular person. These are just the laws that we're all kind of working on executing now, right? And so with some of the laws, the Department of Education, all the mandates put on them, for example, for renewable energy, net zero, the food security laws, they're of course reportable to that, right? And so there's been significant coverage in the media where the Department of Education needs to report back to the legislature on this. Same goes for the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity, the Public Utilities Commission. So there are pieces of enforcement on these matters. There are some some of these laws where there is no enforcement entity, right? And it's a mandate that's out there on all of us. So one thing that we've heard from the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development is that as we've been creating the state sustainability branch, is how can we make this information more transparent, more user-friendly, and provide that accountability for the public? Because we've heard from our policymakers that oftentimes they don't know where we are in measuring these goals. So that is a part of our hopes, is that we put together a dashboard. There is very minimal staffing to the state sustainability branch. We've had funding issues in the past. And so, we do want to commit to a dashboard in which we work as a centralized entity to help inform our state and county agencies and partners, as well as the public, on where we are on hitting these goals. So hopefully it's not enforcement, Chair. And the Office of Planning, I don't have the staff to enforce, right? And we don't have any enforcement authority or powers. But we just believe that, information is very helpful and transparent to the public. And we find that this will be helpful as we go together as a public body, asking whether or not we've achieved any of these goals 4 years or 14 or 24 years from now.
Thank you. And
Chair, if I may,
Asuncion.
I can speak to like the housing component, right? And you asked about whether or not there's incentives or things that are happening. Right now, as you may know, there's a couple of bills going through the legislature, right? So, and I'll take TOD as an example, right? Oahu fully developed. We're now working with the neighbor islands, right? Because TOD means something different on the neighbor islands, but trying to get them to identify their TOD areas, right? And the incentive there is we're also trying to line up the state monies in the dwelling unit revolving fund, et cetera, with HHFDC to look at infrastructure improvements that might deliver more housing, right? But they have to be in a TOD area, right? Having HCDA, right? They now can look at across the gamut, not so much, community development districts, but to assist, say, the county, right, in doing some of that infrastructure or even development if they wish to. Commissioner Miyasato, I was around when we did that rental housing report, and I will say the goal of that was to try to identify all of the lands in the state, right, on 3 different tiers, right? One, ready to do development, right? Probably got permitting already, or maybe you just need a couple more permits, infrastructure, quarter mile away so that it's, easily extendable, right? So we've kind of put that in tier 1. Tier 2 was maybe the infrastructure half a mile away, right? A little bit harder. Tier 3 was like, raw land, right? It'll take some effort to, come to the LUC to reclassify it, get county zoning, et cetera. The use of that report actually has been used because one of the offshoots we wanted was if there were developers out there willing to look at it, and because we also named the landowner, right? And to go talk to the landowner, like, you have this vacant land or you have this, this kind of uses on it now, maybe only got a 1-2 story walk up, maybe you like put like a 6-7 floor condo, right? So we're trying to encourage that. And I know some developers have used that. For the neighbor islands, because there weren't too much interest so much, but we still felt like you're going to spread that 22,500 units across statewide, right? Yeah, we could develop it all on Oahu, but it won't help the neighbor islands. So what we did there was we had actually each county go name your top 10 projects, right? That could be rental housing. So that's in the report. So if right? If they carried through with it, which I haven't tracked if they did, right? There's a list of projects that each county said, here's our top 10 that we think we can move forward on if we get resources, et cetera. So to that kind, I mean, that effort is ongoing, and we can certainly incorporate it onto, into this report. Even though it's not mandated or it's not clearly mandated, it just has housing. But those are the types of incentives that are out there, right? Like, more infrastructure wise, but also assistance in development. But we have to gear it towards something because the lead said, right, use it in TOD areas. They use it in these special areas.
Thank you, Mr. Asuncion. Commissioners, any other comments?
Question,
Sure.
question.
Issue,
Yeah, just one example. As I look at the farm to state local food purchasing, this DOE, DOH, what partnerships are you guys creating to get that volume of, yes, locally grown food, that partnerships, avenues, like kind of break it down for one, maybe I can kind of see, but like, is there a plan in place? Understand there's bills that has to be done or it's done, but what are the partnerships you're partnering, like on Maui, if is there outreach to
Yes.
attain this goal?
So, since this is a recent law that was passed, it was originally just led by each department. And of course, that's not going to work in the long run, right? If every department's going to start going into their food production, right? And that's just going to overwhelm the farmer too, right? And so you're starting to see, DBED getting in that conversation of trying to work with farmers, work with Mahiapono, right? And work with ADC to try to have ADC message these large mandates on the state, right? On how we can, fulfill these food production requirements. So those conversations are beginning. Unfortunately, as we saw in 2025 with that reporting requirement, the departments within 2024 and 25 were still just acting independently. And so what the state is now, we're starting to work on that interagency coordination to help fulfill these mandates in the future.
I know Kamehameha School's Kapalama currently has poi every day,
Nice.
but it's,
Sounds good.
but they found out that they're not used to poi. So you gotta reintroduce to them at a young age, right? So I'm used to it. I might not be able to afford it every day to it. That's what I'm looking for.
What do you mean they're not used to it? They never get it when they were babies?
Would love to see one breakdown plan on how you, I mean, again, lofty goals,
Yes.
but we gotta go somewhere, and I like the integrated part. But I cannot see how we can, I know we're behind the 8 ball currently, so it's curious, what is the biggest impediments will be other than funding?
Coordination.
Mention.
Coordination, right? And it's information management, right? And so this is where I would say from, at least from our perspective, right? And the responsibilities of this branch and OPSD, right? We serve as a centralized agency within the state, right? And we're a coordinating agency. So we can talk to all of those departments. And so as I've been listening and talking to these departments, as well as many policymakers and frustrated folks, right, on how are we on 10% or 18%, right, when we have those numbers thrown out, right? A lot of frustration we've heard is, you got to go into an annual report of this department or that department, and you're not getting that information so readily. And so that is a part of what we want to do is that dashboard that I mentioned where we can reach out to DOE and UH and everybody else, get that information, use our coordinating laws to enable this information and put it publicly available. I think when we have more clear information, more coordination from a statewide perspective, we can move forward, quicker, right? So that we can start finding those partners so that we can hit these food production goals.
I know when I was in high school, we had ag classes.
Yeah.
And that's an easy route to food production, food on campus, right? So, and that was very popular in the 80s, the ag classes. So we could take the food home, and then you get the bug, right? There's a bug you plant, but I don't know if it's in the school system now. It was even in our grade school, in our elementary school. We had farming ag classes in our elementary school. I think that's something we need to reintroduce and get people outside. I think there's an easy way to a degree to create your own.
Absolutely.
I don't.
Yeah, there have been investments within the university, the campus system, of course, with producing food hubs across the islands, right? As well as how do we get, students to get more interested in agriculture, right? When you talk to Farm Bureau, they say the average farmer is 61, right? That's not going to work out in 2050. So, right, we got to get, right, the youth more interested, involved, and partner that up between DOE and the University of Hawaii, right? And there is that pilot program going on with the Leeward Community College here on Oahu, where they are starting to work with, Waipahu High School, Lelehua High School, Mililani High School to start fast tracking this vocational development, right? So that we can have some more funding for our farmers.
Ms. Bass, do you know if there are still 4-H programs in the high schools?
There are, yes, Chair. I was very pleased to see at the State Capitol's Agriculture Day, which was just a couple weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. There were so many 4-H programs. And I am very proud to say that there, at least actually across the state, our elementary schools do partner with nonprofit groups. I know Kokua Hawaii Foundation is a good one where they have Aina-based learning for food production goals, and they do composting as well. So, and then there are some ag programs within our high school systems and our high schools and our middle schools. So, they're still there. We just need to put some more oomph behind it.
Thank you. Vice Chair Carr-Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm grateful for the conversation here about the food expectations. Like Commissioner U'u, I was wondering about that as well. The doubling food production is lofty, and I'm sure we all wish that would happen. I live in Waimea, which many think is the food basket of the Big Island, and we have farmers retiring left and right. And while our local schools do have school gardens, it's really hard to get the younger generations interested in this. So I was wondering about incentives being supported and having incentives to become new farmers or existing farmers to grow. So I wondered about that. And then my other question was if there is any support out there that I may not know about on the cesspool conversions. Are there any grants or tax rebates or anything like that in the works that you're aware of? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I'll go with the last question first. So first, the cesspool conversion, that is a kuleana that the Department of Health carries. They have to report back every year to the legislature on the progress for cesspool conversion. They're working hand in hand with a nonprofit entity called VI. And so that nonprofit entity has quite a few grants that they've accumulated. They're working with other nonprofit entities, as well as the University of Hawaii. I recall that the Hilo Community College was recently partnering with VI and the Department of Health on vocational training for cesspool conversion opportunities, as well as they're outreaching to, Native Hawaiian groups such as CNHA, as well as, the Hawaiian Council, as well as Alulike. So there's a lot of excitement. There are some grants available. It is largely led through this VI nonprofit and in partnership with the Department of Health. Yes. As to incentive opportunities, Commissioner Carr-Smith, absolutely. I believe that there are a myriad of bills, the legislature right now where I think Leo and I were just having conversation about our office submitting quite a lot of testimony in support of subsidies and incentive programs for agriculture. I recently recall quite a few Senate bills. Unfortunately, I don't have their status at the top of my head, and I do apologize for that. But our office has been strongly supportive of, agricultural production, as well as just finding multi-uses, even in terms of agrivoltaics, so that we can meet our energy goals as well as farming and food production goals. So we strongly support all incentives and subsidies to our farmers. We like to think of ourselves as strong partners of our farming community in OPSD.
Thank you for that.
Let's make one more comment. We have a deer problem on Maui here.
Yeah.
That is so good tasting, but I mean, I didn't say problem. I mean, over here we need a food solution, right? So if you're the tool, our kids deserve good food. God is not food. I'm not a big fan of goat, although I eat it, but we got ugly issues all over Maui.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I don't know how we create that barrier. As you guys know, part of the problem is the options to I guess the Department of Health to slaughter.
Yeah.
Processing.
The big farms on Maui it's gone away. Just FYI, we were pig farmers growing up, and not much pig farmers anymore. But it's everybody when Costco buying their pork pots. Then again, we got issues with bears and a great solution if possible.
I was talking on that agrivoltaics bill, actually, that was in the legislature. We were meeting with DBED and our partner agency at ADC. There's a lot of interest and support from DBED to have a state funded slaughterhouse, at least, of course, for large animal, but small animal too, right? So when we're looking at goat and sheep, right, because those ungulates are also like on these agricultural lands, especially for our, solar energy facilities. So we want to make sure that there's a circularity, that the sheep are there, for consumption as well, right? So that, there's circularity in all of this conversation. Yeah.
Take a model too, Lanai has a mobile slaughterhouse that it's certified, et cetera. So is that something
We could
a
do.
little bit more easily replicated on the neighbor islands and can move around, right? You don't have to
Yeah.
get in one area versus, right, just going to the farm or going to.
It's part of the incentive process to create that.
Yeah.
Second Vice Chair Kamakeo, hello. We know you are an experienced farmer. Is there any manao you would like to share with us?
Mahalo for calling.
Are you taking us on a field trip?
Yeah, taking you on a field trip.
All right.
Well, gotta change. I don't know what's up with my Wi-Fi, so I apologize. Well, there's multiple pinch points when it comes to the entire ecosystem of, our food system. So a lot of those points were discussed here. We can see the trends of the age of food producers, just ever increasing in age, and therefore the producers declining. The narrative, one of the narratives is food production isn't attractive for the younger generations. I believe that to be a false narrative, because everyone eats. Yeah, and if we simply just remind our keiki where food come from, and just remind them, because humans pay attention to the things they love, and if they love to eat, then you gotta participate in the system. So one of the pinch points is slaughterhouses. One of the solutions is mobile slaughter homes, but another critical point is the certification of the meat, and having a state-sponsored USDA agent there to certify, the humane gathering of these animals is also a critical pinch point when it comes to the outer islands, especially Maui Nui in general. Yeah, state-sponsored programs would help. Of course, the DOE But I want to believe, and you don't have to believe me, just look at the data. It's really about access to land and water. Much of the agricultural lands that are in production are leased lands. Yeah, the agriculture producers are leasing these lands. And at such a time when, the housing market looks is very attracting, to these large landowners, they often don't renew these leases, and then these lands are then put into the housing market for development. So that's also a huge contributor to the the need and our role here as commissioners on the land use commission and trying to balance, the well-being of our communities with between, food, between water, and also housing. So I apologize for my Wi-Fi. I'm still in the room alone. I'm at home by myself, but yeah, just mahalo for this conversation. I really appreciate it. A year ago, well, I think last year, we finally, so I was a part of a capstone project, did research at Arizona State University, and then we just released recently our marine study for food systems. But last year we released our capstone project on the venison issue in Maui Nui. So if you guys are interested, you can go look it up. Just Google ASU venison, and you'll find it. Back to you, Chair. Mahalo nui.
Thank you for those great insights, Commissioner Kamakelo. Hello. I mean, kind of speaks to a lot of the problems that we have. Mr. Kahele, do you have any questions or comments?
Chair, I got maybe one comment or maybe a statement I need to make, or maybe a question I need to ask Ms. Bass. It's been on the news and it's been in several articles in the paper about this big cafeteria that they're building up in, looking at building up in Wahiwa. So is that construction of that cafeteria is looking at replacing most of the cafeterias that's currently in the public schools, or is just the centralized areas where the schools are currently located?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Kahele. I was actually invited to that groundbreaking. So that is a very exciting project that is led by the Department of Education, the First Lady, as well as Senator Dela Cruz, who's the senator of the Wahiawa district. And that cafeteria, what I learned was, although the groundbreaking was just last month, the intent is to centralize food production specifically for the North and East Oahu regions. I hope I got that correct. And later they will have a secondary cafeteria, I believe, to serve Leeward and South districts within Oahu. They also absolutely intend to have large regional cafeterias on all the major islands, so that they can also distribute to those island regions as well, so that there can be more centralization, vocational training, workforce development, as well as just making sure that there's these goals that are met. It was a very exciting groundbreaking. I know that those who participated are very excited about just not only the Wahiawa cafeteria, but how this can continue on for the whole state and the regions that these regionalized cafeterias can serve.
So, Ms. Bass, just a follow-up question. So this facility is looking at, once it's completely, completed and everything's all set up. Is the intent to eliminate all of the current cafeterias that's currently in most of the public schools?
No, my understanding is that no, it does not intend to replace the cafeterias of the schools. Rather, it's to partner. So I believe that the mass production would be at these regionalized cafeterias, and you have the culinary students as well as culinary staff of those schools, respective school cafeterias, to start working on more localized school food output and more localized school food cooking. So the larger products of the food would be made at that regionalized cafeteria and then distributed through the network to the more local schools. So this is something we're all co-learning together. I know that the Department of Education is definitely executing this vision with the University of Hawaii and the Leeward Community Campus. So the short answer, Commissioner, is no, I don't believe that it's replacing those cafeterias.
Thank you. Thank you. I wasn't sure. Thanks.
Thank you. It really helps enlighten us on policy questions like housing on ag land and stuff like that, right? I have one last question. How do you ensure that this transition is equitable and just, and it's not placed on the backs of the poorer people to subsidize rich people get solar panels and batteries?
Could you clarify the transition, Chair?
Well, to make it fair so that, it's not borne on the backs of like higher electricity costs or the other requirements that the poor, will have to bear versus subsidizing rich people to get tax credits, solar panels, things like that.
Okay, so specific to solar?
No, just in general.
I think that comes in when we're working together on forming this policy. There are many policies in which the HGIA, I know Leo has more experience in this, but the HGIA, of course, is working with a mandate to focus on low and moderate income solar energy opportunities, right? And so they're working through the GEMS funding, as well as with various solar operators. I think, from OPSD's perspective, when these proposals and policies come up, equity and just is actually paramount, right? That's really core of urban planning, right? We want to make sure it's fair for everybody. And I think, as us as state workers who, we all want to make sure, right, we're not leaving anybody behind. That's very much how we're taught here, in DERP and urban planning, but it's something that we want to just make sure that, as things get harder, as things are becoming much more challenging, and, there are conversations of, rich and poor and, that financial issue becoming more and more distant, right? The loss of the middle class. So many of us from Hawaii, born and raised here, we know that, we all come from the middle class and even from lower income, right? And so we got to just kako ourselves and the people of Hawaii. We got to make sure we're working hard for them, and we make sure that through those policy proposals and through amendments, of course, OPSD, we always definitely support incentives, not just for the rich, right? We want to make sure, right, it's helping everybody. And so yeah, that's just a core issue for us. And we want to make sure that these issues of equity and justice are aligned, as well as the laws, right? All of these mandates, this is a lot that's mandated on the state, right? Housing, energy, agriculture, climate, conservation, it's a lot. And we only have 4 million acres of land, right? And we have a challenging economy, and the cost of living is high, and we have an affordable housing crisis. That's a lot to juggle at for all of us as people here, let alone policymakers such as you all, right? And so what we aspire as OPSD is to help support those policymakers through suggestions, amendments, and policy, offers, so that we can make sure that we keep Hawaii, and as well as meet these goals.
Thank you.
One last.
Yes, final questions, commissioners.
Okay, can't help it, but when I look at these goals, yeah,
Yeah.
we were talking about slaughterhouses and stuff. I can say probably 90% of our cattle goes to the mainland because of the economics. The land here is so expensive. It just costs too much to raise your wean off or your calf to slaughter and keep feeding the grass on your acreage that costs so much money. You make a lot more as a rancher, raising it to 450 pounds, selling it to a broker, and they ship it to me. That's feasible. You make a lot more money than keeping your steer on your land till slaughter age. So that's a really tough ask for the ranchers to be part of the sustainable program, to keep their cattle here as grass fed and, fill up those slaughterhouses. That's number one. The other one is with pigs, sheep, goats, well, maybe not goats, but if you wanted to start a farm, if you were to purchase your stock locally, it'll put you deep in a hole. You can get a way better deal in the mainland to start, but you can't get it here. We have a problem shipping. We're monopolized with the shipping. And for us to be sustainable and start projects, and at the mercy of our shippers, we can't even ship horses to the mainland. When we participate in rodeos in the mainland, we have to fly them on the plane, which is pretty costly. So you better win some money when you get up there, because you'll be in the whole, and you gotta fly back when you're done. So a lot of these goals are great, but there's like Commissioner Kamakelo had said, these pinch points are, a lot of them are out of our hands and the state. So great goals. I think they need to be given attention. I don't know if they're achievable by the dates put forward. But I guess the other part when we were talking about incentives, for example, on the Big Island, the entire coast has probably 70% or higher prime ag land, the old plantations. They're all eucalyptus trees for over 25 years. Doing nothing. What's the incentives? How can we get them to allow cattle or farming? I mean, beautiful farmland. And there's a small portion being farmed by sweet potato farmers with no irrigation. We have enough rainfall. But how do you get these private, to achieve these goals, you got to get the private guys to buy in, the private landowners. So yeah, a lot of pinch points. A lot of them are out of our hand, your hands.
Yep.
So just a comment.
Okay, thank you. Any final questions from commissioners?
Chair, it's Kuike.
Let's go ahead.
I don't have a question, but I just want to point out, that these are mandates. So they're not necessarily goals, right? So these are mandates that have been passed into law. I just want to make sure that when the state creates these mandates, that we don't keep creating mandates without teeth, because laws without teeth have no enforcement. When we need the state to back our ranchers, when we need the state to back our swine producers, our egg producers, our poultry producers, and even in floriculture, we need the state to resource these mandates. So I don't have a question. I just wanted to make sure that we make this comment, because when these mandates first came out, I was like, well, how are we going to get there? We're, as a small producer, because I'm a farmer by trade first, as a small producer, I mean, my largest poultry farm that I built was 20,000 egg layers. And even at that scale, it's a small producer. The largest pinch point for us was feed. So even if we try to step up, we don't have the local subsidies to ensure that food production, can meet the mandate in front of us. So yeah, let's encourage the state, and then Miss Bass, if you can, yeah, just hold your feet to the fire and make sure that we figure out who's going to go down if the state ends up not meeting their own mandates. Because I would love to have names so we can apply pressure where needed. Who's responsible for the state not meeting their own mandates? So mahalo, Chair, for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Thank you. Great comments. Yeah, we need our mandates funded, and maybe the sticks should be aimed at the legislators then. Oops, I didn't say that.
Chair, I got one more question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kelly.
Now that this issue, and Ms. Bass had mentioned about this facility that's currently being built up in Waihiwa. How many lunches are we looking at producing after this facility is being, after it gets completed? I believe, there was a number out there that, there's over 100,000 school lunches that's needed each day. So, I guess my question is, this facility is going to be producing how many lunches? Because there's millions of dollars that's being poured in this
I have a
facility.
number in my head, but I don't want to misreport to you. So I do apologize. One thing where I think this study can come into play is, right, we want to make an effort to align these laws and these mandates, especially with our housing laws and mandates. And so when we're taking a look at what is 10%, what is 30%, right? What is the total, to your point, Commissioner? I think that's where I go back to this need for the dashboard and that clarity so that, all the information's available. And so a part of this study, when we go and put out the RFP to ask for support services and professional services for this, is that we do intend to have that dashboard for clarity so that hopefully, I'm sorry I can't answer your question today, Commissioner Kaile, but we can work to answer that question with that dashboard and figure out how much is 100%, right? And then work backwards, right? How much do we need to feed? I'm sure the Department of Education knows that. Unfortunately, they're not here and I don't have that information handy, but
No,
I hope to have that information for you later.
No, and, that's fine, Ms. Bass. I guess what I was kind of looking at is, whether it's 5%, 10% in the next several years, are we looking at this goal that we're trying to meet or accomplish, where it's the food is going to be purchased from local farmers? Is it going to be food that's going to be farmed here? Because that's the goal, right?
That is.
Farm to state, local food purchasing. So, I think may have been the gist of my question. Whether it's 10% out of the 100,000 that's currently going to the public schools, and how much of that food is going to be coming from local farmers, if you got any idea.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's where we got to work backwards. And so unfortunately, I don't have that information from the DOE right now. We can get that. And, and just with any kind of planning, you just work backwards. What's 100%, right? By 2050, we have to hit 50%. What does that look like? What's the numbers there? By 2030, it's this much percent, right? And so it's 30% of local food produced or purchased by local farms. So we'll quantify that, and I'll work with the Department of Education on that number.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Bass. Because there was a number put out there, I don't know, several weeks ago that just school lunches at public schools amount to a little over 100,000 each day. So I was just kind of curious. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Kahele. Staff and executive officer, do you have any questions for Ms. Bass? Okay, last call for commissioners. Any final question here?
I'm sure, I know now they're looking at, for the large landowners, some wildfire mitigation plans. And a lot of the large landowners are concerned about that process, because it might be costly to own large lands. And at the same time, they're trying to farm or sustain certain things, and the underlings decreasing or they losing revenue from the daily process. They estimate about 2.1 million they lose annually. So, you get the mitigation, the ungulate effects, and you come with the dry spells of water, the effects of what happens to their land. Let's hope there's a carrot to wave, because I really want them to be successful
Sure.
in farming, like what was mentioned by Miles. But I think that's the way we have to make it somehow. Sometimes not agency, sometimes the state, it's in the way at times, so it makes it a little difficult, but I get it to a degree. But I meet with farmers on the island, the large landowners, and they're all trying to do their best, but it's very hard. So we gotta create that partnership with them. I think eat good too, right? And our kids got that work. So I don't know what the thought process is, but as we are losing an economic loss to those people. And when you add in the wildfire, what's coming, mitigate or maintain your large landowners, that's also a concern that adds to already existing, losses that they're having annually. So I don't know, hopefully you guys, magic wand. Start hoping, and you guys get some, and I like what Kamakil Ohelo said, mandates, right? So good luck. I wish you guys success.
Hello.
Thank you. We'll now open a second round of public testimony for comments only. Ms. Claude, are there any folks wishing to comment?
Seeing none in the Q&A feature, Chair.
Okay. All right. Well then, Ms. Bass, thank you for your concise and very informative presentation. As you can tell, we are here to help.
Thank
And
you.
thank you, Mr. Asuncion, for your remarks and your comments. And I know you have a lot of experience in this area, so thank you very much. All right, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Mahalo, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Asuncion? Yeah. All right, thank you very much. We'll now excuse you so you can have a local lunch, and we'll be hearing from you again in the future, I'm sure.
Thank you. Yes.
All right, so we're going to move to agenda item number 3, the adoption of the minutes. This next order of business is for the approval of the February 11, 2026 meeting minutes. Ms. Kwan, has any written testimony been received on those minutes?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Are there any members of the public wishing to testify on this item?
Seeing none in the Q&A feature, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any corrections or comments on the minutes? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion now to approve those minutes? Motion to approve. It's been moved by Commissioner Wu. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Commissioner Miyasato. And since this is the first vote of the day, Mr. Ordenker, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion is to approve the minutes. Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Commissioner Miyasato,
Aye.
Commissioner Kamakeo Helo,
Aye.
Commissioner Kahele,
Aye.
Commissioner Carr Smith,
Aye.
Commissioners Yamane and Hashida are absent. Chair Lee.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion passes unanimously with 6 votes.
Thank you, Mr. Ordenker. The next agenda item is number 4 for the tentative meeting schedule.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On March 25th, we will be on Maui for the Pu'unene Quarry. Motion to amend. On April 8th, we will be at the Oahu Airport for the Haseko. Motion to amend. On April 22nd, we will be in Kona for the Hana Ipu Hideaway remand. Tentatively, we have scheduled on May 13th a solar special permit, assuming that it's filed by 5/4. And on the 14th, we have Kauai, also on Kauai A89-636 Grove Farm. Motion to amend, but that is also pending the motion filing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ordenker. Commissioners, do you have any questions on the tentative meeting schedule? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. The final agenda item is for adjournment. This concludes our meeting. Is there any further business to discuss? Okay, seeing none, then this meeting is adjourned.